Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode. Got a great interview today. I think selling one of the hardest things I have yet to hear of. I think you will too. So I think listening to the stories, the approaches, the mindset, the skill set, and solving this sales challenge is very interesting. I think you're really going to like this episode. Before we get into it, big congratulations for everybody who's not panicking and hiding out. I heard from marketing podcasters that there's downloads are down 50%. And I was like, wow, sales, mine's up. Salespeople want to work. Salespeople want to sell. Salespeople, the good ones, work through it. I think I've been through worse than this, a lot worse than this. If you haven't, well, that's life. I mean, it is the ups and the downs. We've had a fantastic economy for the last probably 8 years, 9 years. This will look like a hiccup in a few months, maybe a year, but we'll look back at it and we go, look, I lived through that. I made it through it. We all know how to be safe. Be safe. Let's get into the interview. I want to give everybody an update on the course. I'm holding the price the same because I know everybody is concerned about price. Be more concerned about income. That's what we really need to worry about. So if you're looking for the courses and you want to spend your time wisely while you're working from home, go to b2brevenue.com, check them out. The key one, I think, for this situation is start the conversation, get the meeting. It's how to build an organic conversation with a stranger without pitching. I know that sounds counterintuitive, and I heard one of the hillbilly sales trainer put down the idea, well, you go ahead and cold call all you want, buddy. If it's working for you, you don't need this course. If you got a big brand and you got inbound leads, you don't need this course. This course is for the rest of us, the ones that we don't have a brand, or we don't have inbound, or we don't have enough. We want to make more. We want to connect with other human beings, other mammals, and build a conversation that turns into a business discussion. So go to b2brevenue.com. If you're in the course already, I plead that you check out the one-on-ones. I'll give you an example. One of the latest one-on-ones is with somebody with zero sales experience, an engineer, who's starting his own company, and we put together a process for him to get potential companies to invest in him building this product. And within 2 weeks of signing up, he's getting 5 meetings a week. No cold calling, no cold emailing. He's having organic conversations with zero sales experience. Now imagine if you had sales experience, what you could do, and you had ambition. Go to b2brevenue.com, sign up. Also, check out our friends over at CoVideo. Everybody wants to see your smiling face. That text email, don't cut it anymore. And before you get on Zoom, a nice video email will give them a little preview, a big smile, a big sense that you're a human being and that you care. Go to covideo.com, try it out. I think you'll like it. It'll break through the noise that we're seeing today. I'll sum up the interview at the end, and here we go. Hey, Leslie, welcome to the show. It's a welcome way of getting started. Tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Brian. And thanks for everybody that's listening today. My name is Leslie Vanetz, based here in Chicago, running U.S. expansion, so new business development for a British research company called Procurement Leaders. I love sales, have been in sales now for 12 years. So really a profession for me and something I'm looking forward to doing for the rest of my life.
And I think you're the first person from Montana to be on the show.
Brian, I'm so happy you mentioned that. And it's my fault for not just leading with that, because it is probably my favorite fact about myself. Yes, yeah. I am a native Montanan. I've been in Chicago for 12 years, but I still have a Montana driver's license and a Montana phone number. It is the last best place.
Yeah, I bet. And how'd you get into sales?
I kind of stumbled into it, and I don't think I'm the only person. Yeah. I joined another British firm, a business intelligence company straight out of college. And I only joined because I thought I wanted to go into event planning, event management. and they were a global events firm, lots of event management opportunities, none at that particular point. So I thought, I'll just take this sales job.
Yeah.
And then once something else opens up, I'll ask for a transfer. And it was immediate. I knew that I had found the right place for me. I got my first promotion, which was like a numbers-based promotion at a record-setting pace. Literally, I was the fastest person to have hit that number so far in the company. And I loved it. I found myself going home after work to do more prospecting because I just was so excited to have fresh people to cold call. And it was not an easy job. It was 100% cold calling, 150, 200 calls a day, no voicemails, no emails. You had to reach a C-level executive from the Fortune 1000 and cold call pitch them. So I was thrown into the deep end. But I appreciate all the experience and perspective that gave me, and certainly the executive presence I learned from a role like that. And I've, tried to just keep the ball rolling.
And what gave you this skill? Were you always outgoing, always friendly, always social, or?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think in high school, I was on the speech and debate team.
Okay.
And like Model United Nations and Model Arab League, and did all of those. I'll call them nerdy, but I mean that as a compliment. But did all those sort of nerdy activities, which really what you're building is a rhetoric skill. You're just constantly flexing that muscle of how do I communicate clearly? How do I articulate my arguments? How can I be persuasive in a way that compels others to want to join my side? So very unintentionally, I had been preparing for a career in sales, my entire childhood.
So you had to do public speaking.
A lot of it.
In the high school, that is not a natural act.
I don't think it is, but I liked it quite a bit. I still like public speaking. I think I'm one of those rare individuals that enjoys it, which doesn't mean I don't get nervous, right. But I kind of like the adrenaline rush of it.
And in high school, what did you like about it? Was the competition, the attention, the winning?
Great question. Definitely the competition, always. I'm so competitive. So I was also a 3-sport athlete. If there's a situation where there is a winner and a loser, I'm going to be a part of it and I am there to win. Absolutely. But beyond that, I love the opportunity to learn. And in those extracurricular activities, you're learning about things that are way outside of your regular sphere. And you really are forced to put yourself in the position of somebody else. Yep. And, how would, you think about Model United Nations, and it's how would somebody in Honduras think about this issue? Or like a speech and debate topic might be space clutter. And as a 15-year-old in Montana, those are not topics.
You don't have much space clutter there.
Yeah, they don't cross my radar. So I think the opportunity to expand my world was compelling.
Because that really emphasizes the performance mindset versus the knowledge mindset.
Yeah.
Because you're not taking a quiz where you either know it or don't know it. You have to persuade the other person of your point of view. Mm-hmm. And that is hard. And
but fun.
If you like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of people, public speaking is number 2 to death as far as fears. And when you think about it, it's like the whole tribe is looking at you and judging you. And if you lose, you're out off the island. Right?
Yeah. And, I've given public speeches for things that were very personally important. Like a great example is a, maid of honor speech at my best friend's wedding. Yeah. And, my hands were shaking as I was holding the paper. So, there's still a fear aspect there. But I think you're entirely right, Brian, that it's not, have I retained this information? Can I pick A, B, C, D on a Scantron? It's, have I been able to digest this information in a way that allows me to reuse it and do so in a way that's meaningful and it is, that resonates for my audience.
Yeah. And then versus being a event planner, which is much more of a process job, structured, check the boxes, make sure everything's on time, make sure everything's communicated. Sales is much more, how do you build interest in doing something that they're not thinking about now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I am a very processed person. I love going down the list and checking the boxes. And I think a lot of that has translated to success in sales, that I've been creative in my process, and I like thinking outside the box or going beyond just the sales process. But I also find that there's a lot of comfort in saying, okay, I've gone through steps 1, 2, et cetera, et cetera. So I know I have done everything to set myself up for success. And then at the end of the day, when you lose a sale, which of course you're going to, you can kind of look back and say, no, I did everything right. I'm okay. It's on to the next one.
Yeah. Cool. And tell us about the sale you have now. What's it like?
Yeah, so very consultative. It's definitely the most consultative sale I've ever done. As I shared, it's a research firm. So I'm selling access to research and advisory to chief procurement officers, generally in the Fortune 1000. I think unique challenge is that we are also growing a new market here in the Americas. So we don't have a lot of brand recognition, which I love launching new products and going into new markets. It's a challenge, right? It's a competition and I'm going to win. Yeah. But it's, I think it makes for a slightly longer sales process because there is that initial element of just saying, this is who we are. Like, is that of interest to you before you can get to the point to say, what are your priorities? Here is where we match.
And you're calling probably the most inaccessible people imaginable. Am I right? Or no?
Everybody puts their pants on 2 legs at a time. So they might be busy, but I think if you can be thoughtful about the messaging you're sending to them, and you can acknowledge that they're busy and you need to make it worth their time, even if you're asking for 10 or 15 minutes, they are difficult to access, but not inaccessible.
And what is the best mode? Is it a combination of email, phone, social, or?
I am one of those extraordinarily lucky people that I'm partnered with an SDR team.
Okay.
So that's a real win. So I do get a lot of support from my SDR team, who those folks are doing the hardest job that there is in sales. That's for darn sure. I do a lot of my outreach to my 10 billion plus companies because I've identified those as my key accounts. I just kind of have a knack for navigating the big boys. I like to go LinkedIn, as well as email, as well as cold calls, voicemails, and just cold calls to try to catch them. I am a huge fan of multi-threading on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if that's something that you're kind of advocating for, but being able to go through, touch multiple stakeholders in the organization, get some of that internal buy-in, and engage with the prospect in a way that isn't buy this. It's let's see if there's a mutual fit. And if there is, and it's an appropriate time to talk about partnership, then let's have that conversation.
Yeah, because you got to match them where they are, which is pretty much unaware of they don't know that you exist, right?
Yep.
They never heard of either you or your company.
Yep.
Don't know what it is. They may have heard of other analysts' services that may fit, may not. So you have to kind of meet them where they are and build that unawareness to awareness and to interest and curiosity.
Yeah. Yep. You're exactly right. And I think curiosity is like the best phrase. I want to be able to reach out to people and share insights with them or share articles, things that will help them today and build that curiosity and build that credibility and trust so that down the road, when the timing is right, they remember, oh, I loved that article that Leslie sent, or she was so patient with me at a time where I needed help but couldn't afford her service. I'm going to give her a ring now.
That's it, because they're not going to go from that cold call to issuing you an order
Yep.
unless they
Unfortunately
can,
not,
unless
Brian.
you're
Yeah.
that good. Maybe you are. I don't know.
No, I am not. I'd like to meet the person who is then.
Yeah. And how do you, build up that value pile? Because it is kind of an intangible. They can't
Yeah.
really touch it. The ROI is a little vague. The value is probably there, but they don't know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think again, I'm a little bit lucky because I work for a research firm, and the analysts that we have, the research team we have in-house is exceptional, and they are constantly turning out just great pieces of insight articles and feature articles and strategy reports. So some of that they make available for me to share with prospects. So that's a no-brainer, right? I'm giving you something that would usually cost $500, $2,000, whatever the case may be. But beyond that, I have the ability to go and participate in our webinars, read the strategy reports. So, I think I'm in a unique position to take all of that data, craft it into insights, and then use those insights to tell a meaningful story to that particular prospect. And that's going to be different if it's a small company or a large company, if they're in pharma versus financial services versus manufacturing. So, just making sure that when I am communicating with them, even if I'm saying just read the subject line of an email, it's a subject line of an email that makes them think, oh, I would like to do that. Or can you tell me, that does make me curious.
Yeah. And how many of you, being, I guess, account exec is that the title, are in the US?
So we're growing the team. We're up to 4 now, which is pretty exciting because when procurement leaders brought me on about a year and a half ago, it was just me. So it's been really powerful to see the expansion of that US footprint and see our client base grow here.
And how many deals do you need to do to make your personal number? Is it
About
5?
20.
20? Okay. So it's
Yeah,
not that bad.
No, and although we offer a service that is kind of consultancy adjacent,
Yeah.
I don't set the prices. My CEO and my chief commercial officer are very, very thoughtful about a price point that allows people to access this service. We don't want to be consultancy. We don't want to be charging these huge amounts. We want to be a profitable business, but do it in a way where it's a partnership and we are not charging more than we need to, so that we can help as many people as possible.
And how do you break up those communications? Because too many people do set the appointment, give a presentation, a demo, give a proposal, negotiate. But I can't imagine that working in your space.
We are given a lot of flexibility to develop our own sales process that works with our personality. So I do have a lot of colleagues that pitch from decks that on their discovery meeting, their intro meeting, go through a deck. That doesn't work for my personality and just the way I communicate. So I am very, very conversational in my first meeting. Certainly want to provide that brief overview of what the company does, what is the solution, what's the engagement model, so that there's a level set, we're on the same page. But if somebody's going to give me an hour, that's going to be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And the other 50 minutes is going to be, man, what keeps you up at night? What is your boss asking you to deliver? What is or even better yet, I saw the CEO said that the company needs to deliver X this year. How are you supporting that? What role are you playing? And for me, I found that just having that conversation is a lot more productive.
And that requires that outward mindset, because you've got to think like they think.
Yes, which, I'm getting there. Procurement people are an interesting breed. So I think I'm still learning the ropes. But that's okay, constantly finding new ways to work and to interact.
Because a lot of reps have a hard time talking about what the other person cares about, as opposed to who you are, what you do, and how does it work.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. Interestingly, this is my first ever individual contributor role. I've always been in sales management before this. And I'm going to try something new. I'm going to move to a totally consultative sale as an individual contributor. I guess I'm just kind of a glutton for punishment there. But in the sales management roles, you're spot on, Brian. One of the most difficult things to communicate to folks is, I know that you have your point A to your point B and that you want to get to, give me your MasterCard. But in between, if you are not asking questions and then really listening to those questions so that you can repeat what they've said and then turn it into another question and be able to dig deep, you're never going to find that pain point. You're going to know what's at the surface. You're never going to really know what's important to them and what will get them to buy. So I completely agree.
Yeah. And the client doesn't want to get there. You have to lead them there.
Right. It's pain point. It's painful.
Right. Nobody goes to the doctor and says, hey, I want surgery.
Right.
They want a pill.
Yeah.
Right. They want a shot. Yeah. And they definitely don't want surgery. So the doctor has to, let's take a look at that x-ray.
It's so true.
The aspirin will cover for 4 hours. The shot may be a day. But.
Yep. Yeah. You gotta pull it out. And, part of that is building trust too, which is, for me, why I like to lead with just those open-ended questions and give people an opportunity to share, and, on my end, show that I am here to listen and that I hear what they're saying and that I want to be helpful, and that, I think most importantly, I'm not going to try to sell them something unless I believe that it is of value to them.
Yeah. And no amount of pressure is going to get them to buy it. They've got to want it.
Yep. I had a boss many, many years ago that would always say, everybody wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold to.
Right. But everybody wants help.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've never met anyone who didn't want to talk about themselves. Right?
We are humans.
Yeah. But it's hard to get that out of our head and into theirs, get those questions and build that trust, the empathy, the interest and curiosity about their world and how do they get judged and what do they care about and how you can help that.
Yeah, it's so true. I find it helpful to write questions down before I get on phone calls with people, because I'm sure you do the same thing, but you're mid-conversation, you think of a great question you want to ask, you wait another 2 minutes until you're done talking about the topic at hand, and then the question is out of your mind.
Yeah. And sometimes the questions have to be a little bit not over the edge, but a touch on a nerve. Mm-hmm. Implication type questions.
Yeah.
What happens?
Those challenger questions.
To get them to really think, because they don't want to really expose or feel the pain.
Yeah.
But they're not going to change unless they do.
Yeah, it's so true. And, I think at the end of the day, people appreciate those thought-provoking conversations. Maybe they didn't log into the Zoom meeting or pick up the phone call thinking, ooh, I can't wait to share with this relative stranger, the fact that my boss has told me if I don't increase profits, we're going to have to lay off a team member.
Yeah.
But they want to get it off their chest and they want a solution. And if, that comes up throughout the conversation, I do think that they're appreciative at the end.
And what have you learned? Because you're there probably a little over a year and a half. I'm sure that first year was a pretty steep learning curve.
Boy, was it. Yeah. I think personally I learned that I am pretty darn resilient, which is a nice thing to know about yourself. This is the longest sales cycle I've ever worked in. When I joined the company, the average sales cycle was, I want to say like 119 days.
Okay.
Or something like that. So, I went in with the mindset that it is going to take time to get there. But gosh, at, month 3, when I hadn't closed my first deal, even knowing that it wasn't time for that to happen, I was panicking, and there's that self-doubt, and you wonder, Did I make a mistake going into this type of sale? Can I do this? But I stuck to my process. I followed the steps, and then closed 4 deals in like 3 weeks afterwards, and hit my, my first year target, 156%. So that worked out. Just stay the course and it will work out. But one of the, I think, more pertinent things I've realized is just because something is the way it is, it's a long sales cycle, it's 118 days. That didn't work for me. I like faster sales cycles. If somebody's interested, why are we delaying this? Let's stay at the height of that emotional buying peak. Let's get you the help you need. So at the end of this year, looking at my KPIs, my average sales cycle is 51 days.
Wow.
So,
Less than half.
Yeah. So it's a nice balance. It was the resilience that I uncovered at the beginning, but also saying, well, it's fine that I'm resilient, but what would be better is a shorter sales cycle. So how can I create that sense of urgency without it being sales pressure? How can it be a partnership and a collaboration with that prospect to get us to where we both want to be, which is a finalized partnership?
And let's talk about that resiliency. What did you do as far as having that confidence with no evidence of success?
Yeah, a lot of red wine at night.
But that's pretty temporary.
Yes. I think a couple of things. I stayed the course. I really did stay the course. And I think that it's a pit that folks often fall into is they don't see the results of their work. So they'll start changing things up. Panicking, changing things up. And then you lose that consistency and you lose the ability to draw useful conclusions. If you're doing the same thing for 3 months and it's not working, it probably just doesn't work. But if you do one thing 1 week, the next week, something else,
you can't tell.
How do you know what's working or not? So I really forced myself to stay the course, even during those times of self-doubt. I also went to my extended network. I went to former colleagues, to other folks I've worked with, and I said, would you buy this? If you did, why? What would be compelling for you? Or, even just calling people and saying, do you mind if I pitch you? Because you're not familiar with this product, and a lot of the people I'm calling aren't. Do I make sense?
That's excellent, because that's practice and feedback from people that you don't need to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's great because those people, I don't know, why would they buy it? And you can get a dialogue going. And I think the other piece is, even though you're not closing deals, are they talking to you?
Right.
Because they're not going to talk to you unless there's some value.
Are they setting those follow-up steps? Are they follow-up steps that they're showing up to, and you're having a pot? Yes. Be like, oh, well, Bob, we actually spoke last week for an hour. You don't remember that?
Right. and that's what I try and coach reps is find out what does work. Then you can make it faster. Mm-hmm. But as long as they're talking to you about the product, about the service, instead of just sports or the weather or current events, then you know that there's something good there, and keep the baby steps going.
That's excellent advice. Yeah, I completely agree. And that's very much the sort of the journey that I've gone on this past year and a half.
Yeah. And what do you think distinguishes you from other reps?
Man, that's a great question. And I think that my CEO and CCO would both really like to know the answer to that.
But you're keeping it to yourself.
Right. So they could replicate it. Because it has not been an easy and straightforward path here in the US growing this business. We've had stumbling blocks. And I think often about, why have I succeeded in a role where so many others have failed? Yeah. Honestly, some of it is just frankly work ethic. I will work until I get the job done. I will work until I meet quota. So some of it's just that internal motivation. I cannot live with not meeting quota and not winning. So part of it is just me being that type A, have to deliver, I need to show up because people are depending on me, my coworkers, my organization. I'm depending on me. I love to spend money. I want those commission checks. I think that that's an important part of it. But honestly, I think some of it is just like my Montana roots and a genuine interest in other people. And like, I truly care about helping other folks. Right. I think that's maybe a bit more difficult to replicate.
And it's a good mix of working hard, but also working really smart.
I try.
Right. Because a lot of people can do the work hard, and a few people can do the work smart. But if you don't do both, especially in your situation, a foreign country, even though the UK speak English and everything, but there's doubt. Distance creates doubt.
Yep. Yeah.
And lack of results creates doubt until you get it. Then it's like, oh, we knew.
Like, oh, I never worried. I had this the whole time. Like, oh.
Cool. It has been a fun conversation. Where can people go to connect with you and follow you?
Yeah, Brian, thanks so much for having me. Please consider connecting with me on LinkedIn. It's just linkedin.com/in/Leslie Vanetz. Any questions you have, I'm always, again, happy to be of service to the sales community.
That pattern seems to be pretty consistent. The competitiveness, the holding themselves to a higher standard. This isn't innate. This is something that we can all develop, and we should all develop it day by day, making it a habit instead of just saying, oh, I don't have it. Make it like brushing your teeth, just a little bit every day. And all these great salespeople that I've been interviewing, the mindset is critical. It is a key element because that's our operating system. And we make the mistake of thinking that is the one we're born with. And I believe there's probably a little bit of innate stuff about our personalities. But I think as human beings, we have the ability to condition ourselves, not just physically, but mentally, to become the person that we want. It's been a big focus of mine over the last year and a half. Let me give you some other examples of what's happening in the courses and the one-on-ones. If you're working on bigger deals, especially now, you need to understand how big companies make decisions. In closing the complex sale, there's been probably 5 people who have closed the largest deals in the company's history. I teach you direction, momentum, and control, the ability to have control and direction over those deals. And for the price of one dinner a month, you can learn this stuff. You can participate. And it's not just knowledge. If you fall into the knowledge trap, you can buy all the books. And when I hear somebody say, oh, I've read 100 books on sales, congratulations. How many books have you read on how to ride a bike or swim? Can you swim? No. Or maybe you can. But did you learn it from a book? A book can help you. A book can show you the rights and the wrongs of doing it. But let's face it, after you read a book, you move on. If you take the book and you keep it with you and you look through it every day and you write down your book, your experiences, your preparation, your postmortems, that'll help. That'll get you further. But how about if you listen to other people? How about if you could talk about your deals well before they get off the rails? How about if you hear all the elements of a large complex sale from many different perspectives, many different industries? And you can also start the conversation, get the meeting. This is a life skill. I can't imagine any skill more important when we deal with other people. Because as salespeople, we're taught to talk, not so much to listen, not so much to ask, not so much to empathize. But what if there was a simple way to do that quickly and at scale so that you could use both technology, virtual assistants, and the superpower of sales, which is focus on the priorities that are most likely to converse with us, which turns into deals. This is the time. People say, we're shutting down. Well, Your mortgage isn't shutting down. The rent still comes due. The car payment still comes due. So what are you going to do? I see a lot of people panicking, and you got to take control over how you view this, what this means to you. Is this going to be something that's just a mere hiccup, a speed bump on your way to success, or is it going to be a ditch? Don't make it a ditch. You know how to stay healthy. You know how not to get this thing. We all know how to do that. But do we know how to sell? Do we know how to connect with another human being? Do we know how to build interest, build awareness, build curiosity, build urgency, have people take action, how to control their mind so they focus on what you want them to? Or are you just being reactive? These are the tests in life. Are you just an order taker, or are you a professional salesperson? Are you going to invest in you? The only asset you really own is you. Everything else we're renting. Everything else is temporary. You are the only thing that's permanent that you have control over. To develop these skills is the distinction and the expediter of your success. You could choose not to do it. That's up to you. It's a choice. Make sure you're checking out the other two podcasts, Sales Questions, Brutally Honest Answers, and the B2B Revenue Leadership Show. If you happen to be selling to state, local government, education, or federal government, you might want to check out the latest episode. I had a guy from GovSpend on there. They've got this hugely valuable data source on what the government's looking to buy, and they're looking to buy a lot. So if that's a space that you play in, I would definitely check that out. Check out the other ones as well. Make sure you're downloading all the podcasts, because iTunes only lets me keep like 50 of them up there. And there's a lot more than that up there. Follow me on LinkedIn. If you see one of my videos go by, give it a little thumbs up. Tell a friend about the podcast. I'd appreciate that. Check out the YouTube channel, Brian Burns on YouTube. And we'll see you next time.